In every heart, there is a unique love story waiting to be told. Come and see today's story. It's about the love of Melanie and Josh, a love that defies society's expectations and illuminates paths that would previously have been impossible to cross. The afternoon breeze blew gently through the manicured gardens of the Rivers mansion, where the roses bloomed in bright colors and delicious smells. Melanie Rivers, the young owner of the family's large fortune, walked around the estate with a sad look on her face. Suddenly, she felt an overwhelming desire to escape her obligations and the marriage arranged by her family. So Melanie decided to explore the far corners of the garden, where the gardeners worked quietly, tending the flowers with expert hands. There, among the colorful flowers, Melanie met a strong young man with hands dirty with dirt and eyes as bright as the sun. His name was Josh, a gardener who had recently started working at the mansion. "Good afternoon, miss," he said with a shy smile as he tended to the flowers. Melanie immediately felt drawn to this simple, humble man, whose presence seemed to bring peace to her restless heart. "Good afternoon," she replied, surprised by the softness of his voice. "You're new here, aren't you?" "Yes, ma'am." "I started today," replied Josh, looking down as a sign of respect. "I'm Melanie Rivers," she said, extending a friendly hand. Josh hesitated for a moment before shaking her hand with his dirt-stained one. "Josh Simon, miss," he said, with an expression of admiration in his bright eyes. And at that moment, between the roses and the whisper of the wind in the trees, Melanie became curious about Josh. But she didn't say anything. She returned home a little happier than when she left. Over the next few days, Melanie really wanted to go back to the garden and experience the good feeling she had found when talking to Josh, but she decided not to go so that no one would find her interest in talking to a garden worker strange. But Melanie's heart was sad because she had to marry the groom her parents had chosen. They said that this marriage would be good for both families. When Melanie met her fiancé for the first time, she immediately disliked him. Even though he was rich, he was rude and spoiled. Melanie tried to tell her parents that she didn't want this arranged marriage, but they wouldn't accept her decision, insisting that in time, the two of them would fall in love. She felt hopeless with her parents and sad about the arranged engagement, as she had always dreamed of finding a great love. The day after her first meeting with her fiancé, Melanie sought comfort from someone who brought her peace for a few moments: Josh, the gardener. She sneaked up on Josh, without him noticing, and watched him carefully as he delicately handled the flowers in the garden. Everything about him contrasted with the groom they had imposed on her. His voice was soft, the care with which he treated the plants was evident, and the combination of physical strength and delicacy made him irresistible in Melanie's eyes. She thought to herself, how great it would be if my fiancé was like Josh. After pondering, she let out a deep sigh, audible to Josh. He immediately stood up and greeted her kindly. "Good afternoon, Miss Melanie. Do you need any help?" She, somewhat embarrassed by her recent thoughts, replied, No, I'm fine, thank you. I'm just taking a walk in the garden to relax, Josh." Noticing that Melanie wasn't well, he showed her all the rare flowers in the garden and how he looked after them. After a lively conversation, Melanie felt happier and was able to forget, at least for a while, about her upcoming unhappy marriage. However, Melanie felt that she needed to talk to Josh every day, looking for a place to express her feelings. Afraid of the comments, she told him that she liked to talk and ask them to meet secretly in the gardens of the mansion, away from prying eyes and social rules that could cause problems. While Josh worked hard on the flower beds, Melanie watched in silence, impressed by the dedication and love he put into his work. As the weeks and months passed, their friendship grew, as did the roses that Josh cared for so lovingly. And despite coming from such different places, Melanie and Josh discovered a deep connection that went beyond the social and economic barriers between them. One day, while watching Josh water the plants in the hot sun, Melanie asked, Don't you ever get tired of working so hard, Josh? He smiled, wiping the sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. No, Melanie. Looking after the plants is what I do best, Josh explained. Melanie looked at him tenderly and said softly, You're more than just a gardener, Josh. You're an artist, someone who brings beauty to this barren, gray world. He was embarrassed by the compliment. Feeling humbled by her sincere admiration, he replied, Thank you, Melanie. It's you who make this garden so beautiful, said Melanie with a smile. It was at that moment that they realized that their hearts were as connected as the very flower beds that Josh tended so lovingly. However, fate is not always kind to lovers, and the love that was beginning to emerge between Melanie and Josh faced its own challenges. Melanie's family began to notice their daughter's closeness to the gardener and became concerned about maintaining Melanie's good reputation. They didn't like seeing her getting closer and closer to Josh. You need to distance yourself from that boy, Melanie, said her mother with a disapproving look. You're engaged to your fiancé, and this employee isn't right for you. But she resisted her mother's pressure, because she was sure in her heart that her love for Josh was true and strong. I can't live without him, said Melanie firmly, facing her mother's cold, disapproving gaze. He's everything to me, my happiness. I found love in him, Melanie said with conviction. Time went by and Melanie and Josh's love and attraction only grew. They enjoyed many special moments in the hidden corners of the garden, full of love and lots of cuddles and caresses. However, as nothing is easy for forbidden lovers, their forbidden romance soon began to spread and whispers of disapproval grew among the staff and members of local high society. This is a scandal. A betrothed girl, about to be married, meeting a simple gardener. The maids whispered, casting apprehensive glances at each other. This is a disgrace to the Rivers family, commented the important people of the town, looking down on Melanie as she passed through the streets. The rumors soon reached the groom's family, who asked Melanie's parents for an explanation. They tried to deny everything, but to no avail. Mr. Rivers, I regret to inform you that the engagement between our children is now off, said the father of the then fiancé stiffly. Melanie was in the gardens, picking flowers for an arrangement, when she was hastily summoned to the living room of the mansion. With her heart squeezing with apprehension, she climbed the stairs and entered the living room, where she found her parents visibly upset. What's going on? Asked Melanie, surprised and worried. Her father looked at her sadly and said seriously, Melanie, in view of everything that's been happening, your engagement has been broken off. The gossip about your dates with this gardener is going around everywhere. So to protect your reputation, we've decided that you need to go and study in a convent for a while. It's an important decision for us. The nuns know how to talk sense into stubborn girls like you. Pack your bags, because you're leaving early tomorrow morning. Melanie swallowed, feeling the weight of her father's words like a punch in the chest. She wanted to scream, to say that she wouldn't accept that decision, but she remained silent. She had always been an obedient daughter. Inside, her heart ached at having to walk away from her great love. That afternoon, Josh was dismissed from the mansion and they were unable to say goodbye. All that remained was the memory of the kisses they had exchanged and the promises of love forever. At the convent, Melanie was often seen by the nuns in the garden, crying a lot as she missed her love. Not hearing from Josh was a deep pain in her heart. But life takes many turns, my friends. One morning, the Mother Superior called Melanie into her office to tell her the sad news. Her parents had been in an accident and unfortunately hadn't survived, so she had to return to take over the inheritance. 4 years later, still grieving the loss of her parents and the time she had spent in the convent against her will, Melanie returned to the mansion. She was no longer the young dreamer of 17. But there was one dream she never let go of, Josh. After settling all the legal issues and becoming the owner of everything she inherited, Melanie hired detectives to find out where Josh was. Within a few days, the detectives found an address where she could meet him. It was a simple flower shop, but with an enchanting charm. She wasted no time in rushing off to find her great love. When she got there, she pushed gently on the glass door, and a little bell made a soft sound, announcing her arrival. At the back of the flower shop, a familiar face smiled at her. It was Josh. He was a little older but just as captivating, and he smiled back when he saw her. They didn't need to say anything or make any requests. They didn't have to. The two of them ran towards each other, embraced warmly, and exchanged an emotional kiss. Hugs full of longing met, and tears of joy rolled down. Josh broke the silence. "I knew you'd come back to me, my love. I'm not rich yet, but now I own this flower shop. I've done my best to improve my life, to be worthy of you." Melanie, still emotional, replied, "I'm glad you have your own flower shop. But you've always been worthy of my love, darling. Yes, I'm back in your arms." And so, over the years, they have seen how powerful true love is, overcoming all challenges. Between difficult and joyful moments, they discovered that true happiness lies not in the things we own, but in the precious ties that bind us together. Did you like this love story? Then help out our channel and leave your like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more heartwarming stories like this one. What's more, do you want to be moved by more stories like this? Then be sure to check out the special playlist at the end of this video. There you'll find more adventures of love and emotion to be enchanted by. Thanks for watching and see you next time.